What's up, everybody? Man, it is good to see my people. The weekend is here, and we have the illustrious Doug Tennapel unleashed.
That's my new greeting. Is that a good?
That's so fitting, man. It's so fitting.
It's my new
So,
brand.
yeah, come on in. Come on in. So, yeah, make sure you guys check in. Let us know where you're from, what you're up to. Let's get this thing started. Let's get these numbers pumped up. So, I am excited to have everybody. So, my brother will be
This is
joining.
exclusive family moment.
Oh yeah. You guys thought that one Q was bad. Now you've got Q Junior coming, so it's about to get real. And he has been advised not to tell any embarrassing stories about me. So there he goes. There he goes. Hey. So this is to everybody coming in. This is my brother. I might have to. So I'm not sure exactly what the deal is, Christian, but for some reason it usually takes about 10 minutes to get everybody in here and comfortable. They're not nearly as timely as Doug's audience is. So Doug says be there at 8. They're there at 7:55. So, and I see Liz Harris. Hey, what's up, Liz Harris? Good to see you. So yeah, so Doug, so what's the deal? So are you going to be joining Liz later on?
I think so. She sent me an invite, so I'm gonna pop over there after we're done here. I'll jump in.
All
right. She's having Bobby Python on later tonight too, I believe. So that'll be really cool.
Okay,
good guy.
All right. Yeah, I've seen him before. I've never met him, but I've seen him on a couple of different shows, and seems to be very knowledgeable. So I'm
kind of smart.
yeah. He's he knows a thing or two. Good to meet you, Christian.
Oh, virtually. Seems like I'm doing most of my meetings with people virtually these days.
Man, isn't that the truth? So I'm going to start off by saying this, y'all. This is the brother right next to me in line. Love him very dearly. We don't agree on everything, but I don't agree on everything with anybody. But very intelligent, very smart, man of faith, man of God. So we'll have a good time visiting and talking. So, and you guys already know Doug. You guys knew Doug before y'all knew me. So, but yeah. So let me ask you, man. So, where are you on this whole COVID thing? I mean, are you ready for it all to be over and get? I mean, do you think we'll ever get back to normal, or do you think this is our new norm?
That's me.
Yeah, you.
Man. So. Like, I don't want to diminish the suffering and everything that a lot of people are going through. I know it's been tough for a lot of people losing jobs and loved ones and all that. But I get through life being a silver linings kind of person. And I'm a homebody. So I hope the virtual thing sticks around. I love, I practice in 2 or 3 different courtrooms a week. I mean, I used to have hearings that would take me, 3 or 4 different days because you got to be in different courthouses that are 40, 50 miles apart. And I can do all of them in one day. And it's fantastic. So I hope that sticks around. I hope social distancing sticks around.
You're not a big hugger, Christian? You're not a big hugger?
I'm not a big hugger. I have a short list of people that I hug. And yeah, I like my space. I like my bubble. I like having a reason to not have to leave my office, so.
Your workday sounds like mine too, because I'm sitting here in an art studio making comics, man. They did the lockdown and the shutdown, and my life didn't change at all. I was just in here doing comics. I don't see anybody. Yeah. Just my family.
My wife said, "Who would have known that my entire lifestyle was actually called quarantine?"
That's right.
He's like, I've been doing this before it was even popular. So let's see. Airborne Poet, $3.25 super chat. Nothing like a Patriot Party. Ain't no party like a Patriot Party, because a Patriot Party don't stop. Sorry, I don't know why, but you know,
He was going somewhere with it, and then it just kind of fell apart on landing.
Hey man, at the end of the day, I am a very I can be a little bit of a nerd every once in a while, but I'm also old. So some of you folks that are as old as I am might actually have gotten that, but some of you may not have. But so you're actually rooting for everyone to get healthy again and for the pandemic to be gone, but for the procedures that have been enacted to not go anywhere, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it really forced a lot of industries to kind of move forward. I mean, we got virtual doctor visits becoming mainstream. I think those kind of things are pretty important. People are starting to see the importance of, the quote unquote essential worker. Hopefully we see protections come in for them, pay them more, things like that. So yeah, I hope all the sickness and disease and dying goes away, but some of the things that, things that have been exposed in the country, I hope those things stick around.
What do you think of the I don't want to say redistribution of wealth, because that's not fair, but the removal of wealth toward like blue collar jobs, like building, steel, construction, and it all being a massive expansion of all of the wealthy tech industries in Silicon Valley, California. This is the largest swap over the last year of income from blue collar bread and butter workers to, frankly, multi-billionaires. Amazon expanded, Netflix expanded, Disney Plus expanded, Facebook, Google. And now you see like a rise in building costs, lumber, cardboard are gutting those industries, and the shutdown of the Keystone Pipeline and things like that. What about those changes from a moral perspective? Are you comfortable with that, Christian?
To be 100% honest, I never thought about it like that. That's not the kind of thing that makes me comfortable. So, I mean, yeah, to answer your question, no, it doesn't make me comfortable.
I'm saying I'm with you on the whole work in an office thing. I think it's a huge development that we remove, like paying rent at an office in a cubicle where you all text each other anyways. Even in your own office, you email each other and get on a phone. So why not do it this way? You remove the rental part of that building, but I'm going, that comes at a cost of we become less physical property hugging people and more people living even more online here. And this is all money going straight to concentrated Silicon Valley.
That actually, Doug, you kind of got me on that one. That's interesting. I guess I've never even thought about that, but I guess the thing that concerns me, obviously, is I'm interested to see when all this is over, what the real estate market does. Commercial real estate is done. I mean, I think commercial real estate is going to be an absolute disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know I shut down my office. I mean, for us, we were spending $2,500 a month for office space that we couldn't use. I mean, especially here in Minnesota. So when my lease came up, we left. And I think there's a lot of larger companies, for example, that are going to go that direction because they're able to get just as much production without, number one, the liability of having people come into an office, and number two, it's probably more productive. I mean, Christian, you're obviously a lawyer, right? So I mean, a lot of y'all's. I mean, are you guys doing a lot of your depositions and things like that? Are you guys able to do that from a distance?
It depends. You know, given the area that we work in, it's a lot of I don't even know the proper term for the elderly population. They're not tech savvy. You say Zoom, and they start having heart palpitations because it means using their computer or finding a computer to use. So yeah, we still have a lot of in person. We have depositions. Have We have a Zoom conference room, so we just have our clients show up in there, sit in the conference room, and then the lead attorney will go sit in their office, and so they're still maintaining distance. But I mean, we do make good use of our brick and mortar office. It's not we wouldn't be as efficient if we moved entirely virtual.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's certain professions that are going to have to always maintain a brick and mortar. But I think that there are a lot more businesses that will find ways to work remotely. And I don't think that's going anywhere.
I have another warning of be careful what you wish for, because I come at this from an animator, right? So when I live in LA and everything's based on a physical office at DreamWorks, we had to always hire locally. So you have to hire from in-town animators that are there. And then suddenly with COVID, you can hire animators from out of studio, right? The problem is the border doesn't stop at our ocean. And so now if you're an animator who's really good and you're in Texas and you want to work on a Hollywood project and there's someone in the Philippines that's better than you, I got bad news for you, because he'll work for $1.50 an hour.
That's called capitalism, though, isn't it?
It's globalism, though. It's not, if you don't believe in protections, which I don't, and don't believe in tariffs or whatever, but then you can't price control on other countries. So that's why jobs end up getting offloaded overseas to countries that they can like jack their own money market, and print their own money or whatever. And they love making 1/4 of what we make. It's like why every gardener and every carpenter and roofer goes out of business, because you can hire cheap people from other countries. Just think of the virtual problem. If you're in an office and someone's a better accountant than you in India, you could be done if it's just about plugging a worker in over a phone. I think the global competition market is going to be very interesting. And as a conservative, I don't believe in price protecting. I don't believe in tariffs. I don't believe in all those kinds of things that would limit that globe. That's where the nationalist populist comes in, is they would compromise that and say, no, we're going to go in and throw some tariffs around to control prices.
So Joyce Tuck, $5 super chat, says, Q, your brother is joking, right? I think that was in direct relation to you wanting to keep social distancing in place.
Does he look like he's joking?
Now, what is not lovable about having that person that you really don't want to talk to, and just being like, hey, just do social distancing, keep your 6 feet. The breath kind of stank, but I don't know, man.
Sorry, can't shake hands, man. Sorry.
I tell you what, I won't lie. The one thing that this whole thing has really brought to attention is that there are a lot of people who practice some really, really terrible hygiene habits. I mean, when you have to start doing YouTube videos on how to properly wash your hands and when to do so, that's more than a little concerning to me.
I'm saying if you're a homely person and you're behind a mask and you're on a dating app, you have a distinct advantage. This is paradise. They're going, I hope this never ends, man. I'm going to be dating 9s instead of 7s.
Right. Well, and just to answer some of the folks in the chat, I don't think anyone is advocating for not getting the economy back up and going, or not opening up the country. I don't think anybody here wants to see that not happen. I think most of us, though, do realize that things are going to forever be changed, and we can either grow with it or we can get lost. But we're going. But those don't necessarily have to be negative things, though. They don't necessarily have to be negative things.
I'll give another advantage. I've spent more time with my family over the last year,
Yeah.
than years before. You're forced at home, and you go, yeah, man, my wallet's getting gutted.
Yeah.
But I'm getting really close with my wife and kids, and it's good.
Man, I tell you, there have been a lot of families that I've talked to, a lot of families that have really grown a lot closer because they've been, they've been forced to get together. Now, in that case, I've got a lot of friends who are no longer going to be married because they have been forced to spend time around we
have a family law attorney in our office, and business is great.
That's not a business.
It's not. I mean, it's sad, right? You never want to see that sort of thing happen. But she's very.
But we're just looking at the bright side of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's a silver lining.
Yeah. One business you don't ever want to see booming is divorce attorneys. So.
Right.
Oh, Joyce Tuck, $5 said, try having an online doctor appointment with a sinus infection. Oof. Yeah, you had me at sinus infection, Joy. No, thank you.
Joy, I thought that was going to go a whole different direction.
Yeah. Thank God.
If you're a proctologist and you're doing an online consultation.
Okay, yeah, this is
going, hey, man, you're fogging up the camera.
This is wow. Okay. So, all right. So let's get into it a little bit. So, I am interested in your take, Christian. We talked a little bit, Doug. I don't think you and I have actually talked about this, and we talk. We talk probably almost every day. About a lot of things. But I don't think we really discussed this whole George Floyd thing. We're up here in Minnesota. Again, I don't think. Let's just squash this in the very beginning. I don't think anybody believes that what happened was right. I don't think anybody believes that Derek Chauvin should not have been punished. I certainly believe that there needed to be a punishment for sure. I did not follow the case extremely closely, but from what I saw, I didn't necessarily believe that the prosecutor proved beyond a reasonable doubt that murder. I didn't personally see that. I know you followed the case closer than I did, Christian. Do you feel that they adequately proved second-degree murder?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think, well, first of all, there was a conviction, right? So, I mean, just kind of as on a technical side of things, it's like, yeah, he did beyond a reasonable doubt because, the jury of his peers unanimously found him guilty. So, but as far as, the evidence, I thought, and we talked about this a little bit, I think the best thing that the prosecution did was to have the specific pulmonologist that they picked to be able to really Sesame Street style the asphyxiation that George Floyd suffered as a direct result of Derek Chauvin's knee in the back of his neck. May there have been other factors, possibly, but I think the idea is, but for this man having his knee on his neck with George Floyd, he'd still be alive today. And
yeah, I think he would be.
Given the evidence that they provided, it was pretty clear that was the case.
As the vanilla center of this cookie, I feel very comfortable right now talking about George Floyd. No, I'm just kidding. What can someone tell me what second degree is? Because I'm an idiot. What's second degree? What does that prove? What was decided? What's second degree? Is it intent to kill?
It's not intent. I don't know the exact language. I'm a gross misdemeanors and below attorney myself. I don't do any time with felonies, but I do know that intent is not required for that.
It could be just negligence.
I want to say it's reckless, but I would need to look at the statute.
I would
But
probably
it's
go with
something
that.
like a wanton or reckless disregard.
I think his death could have been avoided, is my sense. Did the guy deserve, being locked up? I'd go either way. If he was let off, I'd be fine. And if he gets locked up, I assume the jury probably saw some evidence that I did not see that might really be convincing. So, I hate the whole thing. I think I do think that George Floyd was dangerously used as a huge puppet, and many more people died because of it, because of how he was used, and anger and backlash and all that. And then on the right, people just automatically accusing jurors of being tainted or sold out or compromised. And I'm just going, I don't see that. I don't think that's fully justified either. It's kind of a I don't know thing. I do know that guy did not have to die. That was totally avoidable. I think you could have arrested him and done whatever and got him in the back of a car and putting a knee on the neck. I don't even understand that.
So, real quick, I want to get on with there's an interesting question in the chat. So, how do you get convicted, Christian, of 3 different charges of murder with only one death?
Oh, well, it's because, it's kind of like a kitchen sink approach almost. You, as a prosecutor, you charge him with the 3 different charges, but he'll only get sentenced on the most serious one. So say the jury takes it, and since all the charges have different standards, the jury will say, well, we don't find all the elements for second degree, but we did for third degree. And so he would have gotten off in the second degree, convicted in the third degree. But because he got convicted of all 3, he's only going to be sentenced on the most serious one.
So he'll be sentenced on the second degree.
Yeah.
So which brings us to the natural point in this conversation. So it looks like they have filed for a retrial. So now I'm not sure exactly how this is going to play out. I'm not sure how it's going to go. But for those of you guys who haven't been paying attention, one of the jurors, who was an activist, a Black Lives Matter activist, admittedly so, when he was asked during voir dire if he was familiar with the case, he said he was not very familiar with the case. It turns out that wasn't very truthful. He was familiar with the case. He was photographed with a few other Black Lives Matter activists with a T-shirt saying "Get your knee off our necks." And he also went on to a radio show where he talked about, he was proud to be able to use his activism on the jury, and that more people needed to get to become jurors so that they could bring about social change. Now, do you feel like, I'll ask both of you guys that. Do you guys feel that it is proper for a jury to be used, or to use jury duty as a method by which to bring about social change?
I do. And I think he's the only honest jurist on that subject. I think, and this is something I'd like to hear Christian talk about, because I am so skeptical of our legal system. I just think you shop for a judge and you shop for a jury. And that's why, and because I've been part of juries where lawyers on both sides are trying to figure out who's most likely going to win my case. And they get a certain amount of excuses and a certain amount of not. And I'm just going, this court case was decided at the jury picking time. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know how much of the evidence, the lawyer knows of this. I don't know how much of the evidence even came into play, and I'm fine with it. That's our legal system. I don't call that justice. I call that about as good as we come. So I'd like to hear what you say about jury selecting judges. If this was a whole different jury, the cop would have gotten off.
Well, that's where I would have to disagree with you. While the idea is the perfect set of circumstances is an impartial jury. Well, that doesn't exist, right? Everybody has their own biases and prejudices and stuff, and the judge gives you the spiel about putting it all to the side to render a just verdict. Well, you're going to do your best, but your life experiences cause you to look at things differently, a whole lot differently than I do for my life experience. Mm-hmm. The goal is that you get a random enough selection of people from the community that you can present the evidence in such a way that all of these people, despite their life experiences, can see beyond a reasonable doubt that this is the correct verdict. That is why I am, as far as with the whole Brandon Mitchell thing, as far as what he did, I think it's horrible. I think that it throws a monkey wrench into the whole system where you hand out these questionnaires and you lie on them. Because, what's the point, right? But to answer your question, Q, as far as using juries to push a social platform, I don't think that's appropriate either. You're there to perform civic duty, right? You're there to look at the evidence, and despite what you may think about the particular subject matter, you were there. You literally are given pages of jury instructions, and they tell you exactly how to think about what. It's these are the elements for second-degree murder. First, you must find. Then you must find. Third, you must find. It's like that, So if you take that, ball it up, throw it away, and say, I'm here because Black Lives Matter. Well, I may sympathize with you, but that's not the place for this. Right mm-hmm. Here, right now, we are here to perform an integral part of the justice system. Not here to push any type of agenda. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, I think. So you'd come out with that same opinion if they looked at the evidence and said that this cop did nothing? You'd assume that the jury, which is what I assume, that the jury just saw something that you didn't, and that it was probably a correct decision? So
in this particular case, if the jury would have come back with that verdict, I would have said, after hearing the evidence, the prosecution did a bad job. I think this was a 6-inch putt for the prosecution. All they had to do was focus and
just show the video.
Basically, there was a little bit more into it. There's a couple chats about the knee was on his shoulder and then all of that. Yeah. Those are the kind of traps that you had to avoid because it was you had a number of doctors and everything.
Real quick, so, while we're on that subject, so Kathleen Maddox, $5 super chat says it was proven during the trial that his knee was on his shoulder, not his neck. Chauvin is innocent.
I have a number of issues to take with that statement.
And hey, by all means, so first, you paid attention very closely to the trial. So did you not feel that they properly? Did you not feel they properly? Proved that his knee was on his shoulder, not his neck?
First of all, a trial is not meant to prove innocence, right? Even if Chauvin would have walked out of there exonerated, nobody would have said he was innocent. The term is not guilty. It's not guilty for a reason.
Sure. Because of the high criteria it takes to prove someone, you're not saying he's innocent. You're saying that high criteria was not met to make him to prove he was guilty.
And a defendant never has to prove anything, sure. Right? That's why you have the Fifth Amendment. You can sit there and not say anything because it's the prosecution's job to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, right? The second thing is in regards to Chauvin's knee. I think a big part of the prosecution's case was, even if Chauvin had his knees on the small of Floyd's back. Well, I guess that actually made it different. It was the fact that you had these cops come in and testify that what he did and how he did it was completely uncalled for. They talked about how the officers are trained that when there is a suspect, especially after a period of aggression, is lying face down and there's any type of pressure applied to their back, they're not going to be able to breathe. Like, that's something he was told. And you have a number of people on the outside saying he can't breathe. The man himself is saying he can't breathe, and he just sat there. And I think even if, like, people are saying, oh, he was on his shoulder, it speaks more to this idea that he had a reckless disregard for the fact that this man can't breathe. Didn't even enter his calculation of maybe I should move. Maybe another cop, hey, maybe we should turn him over. Nope, I'm gonna stay here. And recognizing the difficult job that police officers have, and also admitting that I would never be able to do that job. But as a human being, seeing that sort of action from somebody that, that's his community, he's there to protect and serve them. You get called because this guy was using a counterfeit $20 bill, and you decide the proper way to execute force is to handcuff him, put him on his stomach, and kneel on him until he stops moving. It's problematic.
Yeah.
Again, if whatever way it went, I've seen both sides of this stuff happened. I mean, I didn't care what the jury said on OJ. I thought he was guilty. On this one, I'm way iffier on.
Why?
I just think there's more of an argument for I'm related to law enforcement, lots of them, and I'm saying I've never heard of I've never seen them act the way Chauvin did. I don't think he was being mean or anything. I think he was just, it's very impulse in the moment, and it's very tense, and you almost don't know what you're doing. That's why they have to rely on their training so much. And so I'm only saying it didn't look like he was doing stuff to protocol. It looked like he was just, in a panic, like just doing whatever made sense to him, which killed a guy. So I'm just saying.
Do you believe he should be held accountable for that?
I do. He has to be. That's the thing, that's why if it's second degree, I don't know what the degree is. I don't think it was intentional killing. I don't think his intent was to kill him. I
don't think that was the argument. Like I said, I don't think that, or actually I know for a fact that the prosecution wasn't trying to prove that he tried to kill Floyd. I think the idea was that he disregarded the substantial likelihood that Floyd could die from that.
I don't think he would have known that he would have died either. I think he should have known better than to apply that kind of restraint, that there's better, like you said, he was on his stomach, and there's all kinds of things where I'd never seen a cop do that, where they have a guy on his stomach and he's down and they're sticking a knee on his neck or his shoulder. I've never seen that.
I've had it happen to me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, I don't think, maybe that's part of their training or whatever. And in Floyd's, look, Chauvin did not pay the ultimate price for what happened with Floyd. Floyd paid it. So if he had chemicals in his bodies or even weak health, or he resisted arrest, and I don't care if you're even passing illegal $20 bills. A cop pulled me over today. I had my hands on the dash with my license, and I had pulled my registration out, holding it up so he could see it when he came to death. This guy was white as me. And I'm just like, yes, sir. How can I help you? Okay. That's how I conduct myself around a police. And I just think that would have been another way to avoid this thing. But Floyd's dead, and I think it's terrible. And Chauvin's in prison forever, and I think that's terrible. I just think this whole thing should have gone different any number of ways. But just to be clear, Floyd still has the raw end of this deal.
Right. And his whole family.
He ain't here. Yeah.
I would agree with that in a sense. I think that what frustrated me is that it immediately was charged by the mainstream media. It was immediately charged as a hate crime, or treated as a hate crime, and it was turned into something that it didn't have to be, and it got turned into a race situation. Now, was race a part of it? I don't know. It could have been, but was it for sure? No, it was not for sure. And I think that there were a lot of racial tensions that were brought to the forefront that didn't necessarily have to be there. And that was the frustrating part to me.
And that's something I am totally furious with. The fallout from this is worse. It made it 10 times worse, and even more innocent people were killed.
Well, I think it hurt race relations in some ways, just because,
they were perfectly fine before this.
No, they weren't perfectly fine, but I think that they are worse today than what they were the day before.
It's because nobody was listening the day before.
Are people really listening now? I mean, there's a difference.
Right now, we are talking about race. 5 years ago, we wouldn't be. But I think the one thing that this, even before George Floyd, one thing that all of these tumultuous race relation issues that have occurred is people are talking about it. And so you may say, you may feel that race relations are a lot worse than they were before. It's like, no, it's the quiet people are finally being heard. There's finally a platform. I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with every single tenet of the Black Lives Matter movement or anything like that. But I am open-minded enough to say that I think this is a long time coming, and I think this is what's required for progress. Progress. You look at the history of America. There's never been any sort of progress that was easy, that happened overnight. There was always some pushback. There was always some people that were not sure. There was always people that were angry. But at the end of the day, I mean, do you remember what happened, or have you read about what happened when Black people decided to vote? Have you watched some of those interviews?
Oh yeah, You're talking about when Black people decided to go and vote Republican and people got really mad about it.
No, I'm talking about.
That's true.
I had to do it, man.
It's funny.
Real quick, Pam Jackson, $10 super chat. Thank you, Pam. I'm pro police, but if I were on the jury, there was plenty of reasonable doubt. We must all be responsible for our actions. I agree with that. We should all be responsible. We all have to be responsible for our actions.
But I don't think any of us would know what it would be like on the jury, because who knows? If I was on there and there were instructions and I was following them, who knows? I doubt if I could be unbiased, though. That's why I always turn down jury duties. When the judge goes, "Could you put your biases aside?" I say no.
Yeah.
I don't. Just for the sake of the other lawyer on the other side.
I tell them as soon as I come in, you guys are lucky to have me here. I can spot a guilty person from a mile away. I have this sixth sense. I know who's guilty.
Both these lawyers.
You guys are lucky to have me. Real quick, Joyce Tuck, $5 super chat. Pew, no trial is ever about right or wrong. Never, and right and wrong, never. And I love you and respect you. Thank you so much for that, Joy.
Very kind.
Have a good night. Thank you so much for that. I truly appreciate it. I think that a trial should be about finding the truth, getting to the bottom of the truth for sure. And Sandra Sanders from H-Town, from Houston, Texas, she says, $4.99 super chat. What about compromised jury? Yeah, Sandra, I think maybe you missed. We were talking about Brandon Mitchell, right? Yeah, we were talking about that. I don't think anybody agrees with that. I mean, he was definitely out of place, regardless of his own. I mean, this is America. He has the right to support what he wants to support. I don't agree with. I don't agree with Black Lives Matter, the movement. I just don't.
Yeah. 100% against it.
I don't believe in the movement. But how could you possibly disagree with the idea that Black Lives Matter? I mean, every life matters in general, as far as I'm concerned.
I also think that juror, that supposedly compromised juror, if he saw evidence that Chauvin was innocent, my sense is he probably would have called them innocent in spite of being Black Lives Matter. I mean, I don't know that. But I'm saying every juror is completely biased. I'm telling you, I think that's why I'm saying he was the only one that was telling the truth.
Well, I think the fact that a juror is biased isn't a problem. Like, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Everybody's biased, but you want jurors that are able, like you said, to recognize that in spite of my bias, the evidence is either so overwhelming or just not here for me, to lean one way or another. And that's why it's so important for people to be forthcoming on these questionnaires. And that's why I find it so horrendous that somebody, knowing that they're biased, because when you know that you have this bias and then you lie about it, and then you say that we need to use juries to push our own agendas, that bothers me, because that tells me 100% that you didn't care what any of the evidence was. You were there to push an agenda.
Unless he's lying about it, though. He could be lying in just showing bravado and virtue signaling to his Black Lives Matter friends and activists. He could be, you know what I mean? It's like, and this is the other thing. If this case gets thrown out and they retry it and Chauvin gets off, I go, yeah. And they still found about as good a justice as we get in this country. This is, there's innocent people in prison, and guilty people get off all the time.
I would agree with that. That our system of justice is broken, and we do have a two-tiered justice system. The justice system favors the wealthy first and foremost. A lot of times, your guilt or innocence falls on how great of a lawyer you can afford to purchase.
and culture and media played into this one over the last couple years of Black Lives Matter that could have prevented Chauvin from getting the absolute truth, because there could be some I'm not talking about fear of riots either. I never thought that was the big play, but the idea that cops are racist and they kill Black people is floating around in culture also. Christian, you talked about what we're talking about. You got to admit that's one of the things that is on a lot of people's minds, right?
I do agree that yes, that is something that is on people's minds. But I thought, particularly I believe it was his opening statement, the attorney made a comment that this is not an anti-police prosecution. This is a pro-police prosecution. Good cops don't do what Derek Chauvin did. And that's why I thought it was particularly powerful that a lot of his witnesses were officers. There was the chief of police. There was other police officers that came in and testified to their training and to police protocol. This is not something we do. You've heard of that, what do they call it? The blue wall of silence. Mm-hmm. Totally non-existent this case, because cops recognized that this wasn't the horse you wanted to back.
I mean, I don't want an entire jury pool of Black Lives Matter activists to be chosen from. I hope they got a blend. Do we know that they got a proper blend on the jury?
Well, I guess it depends on your term or your definition of proper blend, but I think
I'd go with half Republicans and half Democrats for starters.
Really? Political? Interesting.
Political. Absolutely. Because if I was looking for what would be a defining philosophy that would cause someone to move one way or another, you could easily pack that jury with all Black Lives Matter, and they could all be white people. Absolutely. And you could pack that jury full of all Black people and have all rigid conservatives. So I'm saying I would want to know, because one side's going to be more Black Lives Matter-y and anti-copy than another side would.
Well, I mean, but that's interesting,
cultural,
Doug, because I know people who are conservatives that are empathetic to the message of Black Lives Matter. See, the problem I have with Black Lives Matter, and this is
sympathetic to the Black Lives Matter.
And I didn't say sympathetic. I said empathetic. And Huh?
I said, sure. No, I hear you.
So, but the problem is this. Let's not lose sight of the fact that I feel that Black Lives Matter has sold out Black people to a great extent, right? Number one, the fact that they have used the platform of Black Lives Matter to push anti-family agendas, okay, to push a pro-trans agenda. Again, I'm not saying that those people don't deserve the right to be treated as people with dignity and respect, okay? But don't use Black Lives Matter as a means by which to do that, right? And let's focus on the fact that in the Black community, for example, one of the issues that we have in our community is broken families, right? That is a big part of the issue that we face, right? We know that with fatherlessness comes a higher incarceration rate. So to say that you want to do away with the patriarchy, or not the patriarchal structure, okay, and the nuclear family, that's destructive to Black lives, not positive. So that's one of the issues that I have with the movement. There's
That's
others.
the biggest issue, or one of the biggest issues. Is I think it's all politics and very little about respect and dignity of Black lives. Like, I think that's a name that they drummed up in marketing right along with pro-choice.
Well, yeah,
it's obfuscation and it's marketing. It's double speaks.
The pro-choice thing is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm a Martin Luther King guy. I'm I'm not a Black Lives Matter guy.
More of a Malcolm X guy myself.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not a Malcolm X guy either. So there you go.
Well,
Patrick, Christian, I'm sorry. Go ahead and do the super chat.
Real quick, Patrick Law, $5 super chat. If those four had stuffed Floyd into the back of a squad car and let him die from overdose, waiting for an ambulance, would they still be on the hook?
Why do people keep saying he overdosed?
I guess because the original toxicology report talked about the copious amounts of fentanyl in his system.
Copious was not everybody's use.
Well,
but traces
that was a word that I used. But it was more than traces. It was more than traces.
Definitely traces, because the coroner, the medical examiner.
Which one?
Homicide. He was aware of the system, and he said, "This is still homicide." This is
which one though? Because there were two autopsies done.
The one that the county medical examiner, not the one hired by the family. The county medical examiner ruled it a homicide.
I could be totally wrong on this one, but I was under the impression that the first autopsy report that was done said that his death was in line with what they would see from a drug overdose, and that the amount of drugs that were in his system had a large part to do with his death. I don't want to get into that conversation simply because I don't think I'm changing anybody's minds here.
We also can't.
You got to go.
Oh, his computer's about
I just got to plug it in.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
We also, Chris Q, we also don't know those hypotheticals. It's like, I don't know what would have happened if he took his knee off him instead and put him in the back of the cop car. The reason why he's on trial for putting his knee on his back, even of a guy who's about to OD, is he put his knee on the back of a guy who's about to OD. If he just threw him in the back of a cop car and he died, it would be a different situation.
It would have been a different situation. And yeah, the officers, would they still be on the hook? I don't know. I don't know what the narrative would have been. I doubt that they would have been blamed for his death. But at the same
Chauvin
time,
wouldn't be in prison for life. I'll tell you that much. If he
I
died
doubt
in the
that he's
back of
going
an overdose.
I
He's not
doubt
gonna
that he's.
stay alive.
I doubt that he'll be on for life, and I'd be willing to bet you that him and his wife will be back together about a week after he gets out. That was
Hell no, man. She's about to get. She's about to get half his pension.
yeah.
She's about to
But
get
guess what?
a nice little pool boy and not get
But
married.
he's
You gotta
but
keep that
he's
spousal maintenance coming.
he's but she is shielded from civil um civil lawsuits, right? So that was all. I think it was all about protecting
Asset
assets
protection.
personally. Absolutely. And you and I both know that it happens. So, but I want to get to something real quick. Let me read this real fast, but I want to get into an interesting conversation that Doug and I can both get hyped on. Because this right here has been kind of a drag. I'm not gonna lie.
This is not happy times.
No,
I can't enjoy my
right.
ice cream. Everybody shut up about Floyd.
So Cat Trout, $10 super chat. Thank you, Cat. Says, I am sorry, but the jury knew the world would go up in flames if DC was not, or Derek Chauvin was found not guilty. I believe Derek Chauvin was guilty of negligence, but not murder. And fair enough. I said that from the get-go. I didn't feel personally what I heard that murder was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but that was me. But I want to get into talking about.
And I agree with that. I don't think he murdered him. If I don't know what second degree means, but if we're going to intent, I don't think he intended to kill him. Well, and murder has to be intent.
They're different.
There's different. I mean, that's why there's different degrees of it. But real quick, so I want to get into talking about free speech. Let's have a discussion about free speech here, because we are seeing a huge uptick in conservatives and people that identify as conservatives being censored on platforms. Now, I'm not putting Christian in a box, but you don't necessarily identify as a conservative per se, right?
Only at the blackjack table.
Only at the blackjack table. Okay. All right. So, okay, so don't necessarily identify as a conservative, but you do believe in the First Amendment. You do believe in free speech. And so how do you feel about, huh?
I said, that's why I'm here. The greatest country on earth.
There you go. So, which is fascinating, guys, because it's important for us to be able to have conversations and to be able to converse with people who don't necessarily think like us, because at the end of the day, most of us have a lot more in common than what we have that separates us. Unfortunately, we live in a community, we live in a society that tends to want to shine the brightest light on the things that are different, as opposed to focusing first and foremost on the things that we agree on. So we agree that freedom of speech exists. So tell me this, Christian, how do we ensure, okay, that people have the ability to be represented or to represent themselves and to speak freely across the board, that conservatives can speak freely, that liberals can speak, or I don't want to use the word liberal because I feel like that's been hijacked, that people on the left, people on the right, and people on the left are equally able to speak their mind with, I mean, not offending anyone. I mean, I understand that, you don't want to, go off on some type of a racial tirade, even though I personally believe that is protected under the First Amendment. Okay. But that's another discussion for another day. But how do we ensure that both sides are able to speak freely without fear of being canceled?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with freedom of speech. I mean, you can.
Okay, how do we deal with these huge social media platforms who seek to silence people who have conservative viewpoints?
Stop using them.
But where do they go though? Where do we go? I mean, let's take YouTube for
This is
example.
your
We're
free
on
market
YouTube right.
capitalist society. Like, I mean, that's up to you. You let the markets regulate that, right?
Okay, but how do you let the markets regulate that? Doug, you see where I'm coming from, right? How
Oh
do you let
yeah,
the market? How do you
because
let the
I'm the
markets?
victim. I'm the victim. I'm the George Floyd of getting my free speech stepped on by a bunch of liberals.
Wait, okay, hold on. Let's. When you say you got your free speech stepped on, was it by a private company?
Yeah,
You have to realize that that's not protected by the First Amendment, right?
yeah,
The First Amendment only applies to the government. So essentially, you still have free speech. You just don't have free speech on whatever
yeah,
platform you choose it on. And
yeah.
I mean,
It's true, but you could. I think I'm making more of a moral case than a legal case. I rarely argue legal because I don't care. I just think it's so hit and miss.
well,
I
definitely.
make a moral case, and I think that our First Amendment is there for moral reasons, not for legal reasons. That we put that amendment in there because it was mimicking a moral truth that people ought to be able to have a freedom to whatever creed is rolling around in their head. And in America, they said we ought to protect your expression of it in public. So obviously, the government isn't going to come down on free speech, or it shouldn't, unless your artistic expression is burning a cross right in front of your neighbor's lawn. We've said you can't do that because that's intimidation. But if I say that, I don't think two men should be able to get married, that's just an opinion, and suddenly I can't get hired on any animation job, I have to wonder how the government feels about that. For instance, if you said I'm pro Black Lives Matter, and suddenly you couldn't work in any company in legal, let's say, is that constitutionally fair? And you just go, well, it's a private industry, it's the law, or it's this one firm, and go to another firm or start your own firm.
So I mean, there's a lot there, but I guess if it was like, if I were to say I'm Black Lives Matter and a company doesn't want to hire me, I would be thankful that I wouldn't be hired by that company, to be honest, right? Because you don't want to work for a company that is going to denigrate you for what it is that your beliefs are. Is that fair? I don't think so. But also, I guess there's a fine line between people being free to say whatever you want, but also trying to make sure that they don't have to deal with those consequences. So I mean, Q and I talked about this for a little bit. It's like I do agree. I mean, if we talk about Google and Facebook, and they just kind of having these arbitrary rules that we're going to allow this and not this, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I think there's a problem there. I don't think it's an assault on free speech. I think it's a bunch of billionaires that have a company that's way too big, that have no idea how to handle it. It's really an unprecedented corporation that they have at their hands, and it's just kind of the way that it is. I don't really know how to solve the problem. That's kind of why I was real tongue in cheek when Q asked the question at the very beginning.
So this is the deal. I think we're every time I start having this discussion on this platform, Doug, and I'm sure you have the exact same thing happen to you. Everyone's go to Rumble, go here, go there. Look,
Go to Rumble.
I have zero interest. I have zero interest whatsoever in creating an echo chamber. I don't. I like to talk to people who have different opinions than I do. I like to learn from them. Hopefully they leave thinking about things a little bit differently than they came. I like the free I like the free exchange of ideas. Okay, that is so incredibly important to us as a people, because if we simply surround ourselves by people who look, act, and talk like us, we will never grow as people, right? But at the same time, I feel so people say, well, I'm just not going to use Facebook. Well, then that's great. I'm not going to support Facebook. What you guys fail to realize is that Facebook, Google, YouTube, they are not creating anything per se.
Amazon.
You are the product. You are the product. They are selling you. Okay. At the end of the day, they are collecting your information. They are, where do you like to travel? What do you like to search on the internet? What do you really want to do, but you really can't do? And so when you are free to be you in your house and you're chilling and you're enjoying your family and you're looking up trips to Bermuda and, oh, I really wish I could go there. Now all of a sudden you're getting all of these ads for, this is a great look at this hot rate to go to Bermuda, only $59.99 round trip. Guys, that stuff happens because they are selling you. They are selling your information to companies. They are advertising directly to you. Now, the problem that I have, and I don't know how you feel about this, Christian, is we can't go in and force Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, okay, and say you have to allow this speech. That's a really slippery road to go down. But they shouldn't be able to shut down platforms like Parler. They shouldn't be able to force or raise the what do they call it, the entry point, or keep smaller companies suppressed. They shouldn't be able to do that.
Those are anti-competition monopoly practices.
I mean, so would you support antitrust legislation against big tech?
Absolutely.
So what does that look like then? Huh?
So you've got, start with Facebook, right? Facebook has Messenger, Instagram. There are other components to Facebook. I mean, it's this conglomerate.
They buy everything.
Marketplace.
Right. If they can't buy it, they mimic it and force you to essentially shut down because they have billions of people on their platform. It's not fair. So yeah, break them up into smaller pieces. We already have the mechanisms to do that as well. I mean, the government has done that. Well, not recently. The government has the power to do that, I should say. And I mean, I really think that there will be action taken against some of these bigger companies. So I really think that that's the bigger issue. When a single company can make a unilateral decision, like we'll take Donald Trump, for instance. Facebook decides we're going to kick Donald Trump off our platform. The mere fact that he has really no other ability to reach followers and fans through a major social media platform is a problem. That Facebook is that big that this one company.
And just so we're clear, you are not a fan of Donald Trump, right?
That's an accurate statement.
Okay, not even secretly.
Okay. So this is not coming from somebody who's a Donald Trump fanboy.
I'm not losing any sleep that Donald Trump's not on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook either, but I'm not losing sleep over it.
Okay, but this is interesting because someone, I mean, yeah. So for someone who doesn't particularly like Donald Trump as a person and or a politician, okay, you have an issue with this as well, correct?
I have an issue with the fact that because this one major company kicks him off the platform, he essentially has really nowhere else to go in social media. It's not like, if, for instance, I like to use a mask example, right? You walk into Walmart and they're like, put your mask on. Like, well, okay, forget you guys. I'm going to go to Cub across the street. They're not going to make me wear a mask. There's no equivalent to that on social media. So it's like dance by our rules or you don't get to participate in the digital age, essentially.
Mm-hmm. What's the legal threshold for that, Christian, do you think, given Google, YouTube, Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, Apple are the big owners of probably 98% of how we freely express ourselves in public right now. They're kind of holders of our expression. You know what I mean? They're either going to be enzymes that help push it, or they could stop it. And they're all representing one party right now. Is there a percentage of threshold where they can control and stop free speech, where it becomes legally actionable to say, given how much you guys control of free speech, now you're no longer operating as a company, but now you're going to have to fall under that First Amendment? Or is the only answer just to break them up because they're too big?
No, and this is like going back to my bar exam days, but there is a body of law about a private company that essentially operates as a government,
a utility.
Right. So you've got those big companies that have like those really big campuses that they're almost like cities. They have roadways that go through them. You'll see it with college campuses sometimes. And even though it's technically a private business, because they provide housing and homes, they need garbage pickup and all this. Essentially, the state treats them as a city, so they can't do things that a city body wouldn't be allowed to do. For instance, ban protesting, or things of that nature. So, using that in this context, I mean, if you could analogize a scenario where there is a bit, as Facebook and these companies, as a public space, a place of public space, public expression, and essentially Facebook is acting like a government governing the speech of these companies. I mean, it would take a very, very more sophisticated lawyer than I would to articulate that and make it legally cognizable in front of a judge, but it's certainly there. It certainly has more merit than a lot of those election fraud cases.
Q and I are going to hire you. We're going to bat.
I mean, unless you want to pay me to waste your money. I mean,
that's right. We're going to pay you.
I'll give you the trust account link. You can pop some money in that retainer. I wouldn't mind that, but as long as the bar is low.
Yeah, no, I think we're gonna put together a class action, so of people who have been unfairly discriminated against by some of these large media corporations. So
70,000 channels have been wiped out since the election. On the right, 70,000.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
My channel was one of them with 450,000 subscribers. Got poofed.
Yeah. And did they ever give you a reason? Or
Today they got back to me and said, we have considered your appeal and we're going to go stick to our original decision.
But did they ever tell you what you said? They gave you a video, but did they ever tell you what you said?
No, they said multiple violations.
And I think that's the biggest thing is that they're not explaining that. So there's no reason. They're not trying to help and teach people. They're just trying to train people, right? You say what we want you to say.
That's my theory is they're trying to. They'll keep us on if they can control your content and get you to put out their message by pushing down certain things and rewarding certain things with ad revenue and views and subs.
But if you use certain buzzwords,
which we don't use, they will shut you down. I made a video. The last thing, I don't think I've actually talked about this, but the last 2-week suspension that I had, I made a video about the CDC director saying that racism was don't even repeat it.
Well, I'm just that racism was a public health crisis, right? And I'm just saying I made a video about it. I'm not going to go into it, but that's what I said. And so because of that, I got a strike. I hadn't even posted it yet. I just submitted it for approval. And they said,
I haven't even heard of that.
I had just submitted it for approval. They checked it out and they said, you're banned for 2 weeks for making this. That is literally the equivalent of banning me for my thoughts. I had not put it. No, seriously. I had put my thoughts on wax, put it on the video. And I had submitted and said, hey, YouTube, what do you think about this? YouTube said, because you said that, you are banned for 2 weeks. You cannot interact with your channel or any of that because
and YouTube, if you're
dared.
watching, he doesn't mean any of this. He doesn't mean anything by this. I'm just saying. He's just, this is a parody. This is a parody. It was an accident. This guy's not in his head. He's not in his head.
Yeah. So, but the crazy part about it is so Jim Jordan and Josh Hawley both yesterday said that they are ready to discuss. Stop it. Don't disrespect Jim Jordan like that. Or Josh Hawley, either one of them. So, he's falling asleep.
Don't worry, Christian. When we fix free speech, it'll protect you, your side also. It won't just be for us. But it ain't gonna come from your side.
See, that's a beauty of being detached from social media. I don't know what the sides are, right? I read, I listen, and I form my own opinions. And my side is me, and my wife back here listen to me.
Just look at the political contributions of all of Silicon Valley, and it'll be pretty clear what's going on.
Okay, so real quick, so Sandra Johnson, why aren't you on Rumble or Telegram? I am on Telegram personally. OOTD is not on Telegram. Out of the Darkness is not, but I have a personal Telegram account. But in addition to that, I have a locals channel. So I am on locals. I started the locals channel, and I'm so thankful. Many of you that are in here tonight do support us on locals, so we do appreciate that.
How do they find you on locals, Q?
At Out of the Darkness. So if you want to go to
social media companies,
yes, these are all social media platforms.
Locals, we can say anything.
Yeah,
I go off over there.
There's your free speech.
I understand that, but they also don't get the level of reach, or even close to the level
because they're not owned. But they're not owned by Google.
Let me get this straight, okay?
Yeah.
You have multiple outlets to spew whatever it is you want to spew, right? But you're upset and feeling wrong.
I prefer educate, not spew. But go ahead.
Two sides of the same coin. But you're upset, and I'm not saying you're not unjustified, but you're upset because it's the one you believe you have the right to be on the biggest one and say whatever you want. Do I have that right?
No, not say whatever I want. Not say whatever I want. I'm saying that if nothing else, there should be clear guidelines as to what is acceptable and not acceptable.
Okay. Can I ask one quick question? What if there were, and it still wouldn't allow you to say what you want to say?
I mean, they get clearer. They do break it out in more and more granularity as time goes on. Because I've recently looked at their content, and it's obvious. They're
the guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and in addition to that, I don't.
It's as simple as I can say pro-choice. I can't say the opposite. You can get this video demonetized. Oh yeah, I've done it before. I've done a test of it.
Wait, so not even promoting it, just saying the word.
Oh yeah, you can't say the.
That's an algorithm issue right there.
It is. No, it's not an issue. It is deliberate.
But that's the crazy part. We're not being we're not being policed by individuals. We're being policed by an algorithm. There's an AI
it's programmed by an individual.
It is programmed by an individual.
So say I out of nowhere start a channel, right? And I do a ton of pro-democrat, pro-liberal videos, right?
You can say anything.
One of my videos has that word in it.
Yeah.
Does it still get demonetized?
Yes, regardless of context.
That's terrible.
I know, dude. That's why we're sitting here crying. That's why we're crying like babies.
Yeah.
Well,
That's awful.
and here's the other thing is, so YouTube is a way that a whole bunch of us make a living, right? It has made a ton of money for me before they, started crushing me. It's the equivalent to you saying that if you live in this neighborhood and you say that your Black Lives Matter, you'll get half of the power of the house next to you that says that they're against it. That's what YouTube is. YouTube is like 10 times the power of another platform. So yeah, I can go to another platform and hey, you can go live in another neighborhood where you get full power for being Black Lives Matter. That's why I was asking the question about, is there a threshold where this business breaks into a constitutional problem with free speech? Because we protect free speech.
Let me tell you how easy it is to get demonetized. God gave man dominion over all things.
Yeah, he just said the D word.
I just said the D word, and so therefore this video will be demonetized. I promise. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will.
Shout out to Rudy, the best damn
shout out to what?
In Missouri. Oh, Rudy Giuliani, his old slobbered farting self. Love when that movie's on the news.
I'm saying though, Christian,
only and I was like, if he can be a lawyer, I can too.
Only one side is allowed. Only one side is allowed. So enjoy that win.
If you make that much money on YouTube, why not just drink the Kool-Aid?
It's because as a platform, it is great. In its defense, I've made TV shows for Nickelodeon, Universal, Netflix. They never let me have a show where I could paint an American flag on the back and say Trump is the greatest president in the world. They never paid me to do that. And YouTube does. Like, it's still an amazingly free platform, freer than any that have ever, I have a worldwide network that I show up and get to do this for free. If I get on Rumble, I can't even stream like this unless I pay $100 a month. So YouTube is in and of itself a great platform. It's just we bitch about what isn't right, which this narrow thing over here they took away from just our side. And so that's what we rant about and feel resentful about. Is it's just, it feels unfair. It's unfair. And it feels anti-American, like what we're supposed to be doing.
You know what the real problem is? Billionaires.
You said is what?
Billionaires.
Well,
oh God.
Mike Lindell is a billionaire and he's starting a site. And you and I, listen, don't roll your eyes at me, but you and I can both go on that site and say anything we want. And
I'm assuming the site isn't ready yet.
No, it's not even close, and it won't be close to YouTube for a long time. But I'm saying it's not. My point is, it's not a billionaire problem. It's that all of the billionaires belong to one party, and one party is more likely to cancel you and challenge free speech
than all the billionaires belong to one party. I think you want to look. No, you might want to look into that one.
The billionaires in big tech, and like I said, look at their campaign donations. Facebook, Bezos, Apple, they're the top donors.
This guy, Zuckerberg is hugely into right-wing contributions. Facebook, what? Maybe not. Zuckerberg like hosts
absolutely not.
It's
Zuckerberg invested what $70 million in the Democrat Party and $70 million in drop boxes in predominantly Democrat districts. Absolutely not.
That's just being a good public citizen.
Allegedly.
All right, yo. Allegedly. So Kyle Cowden, $4.99 super chat. Thank you. Wow, what a quandary. You are up against CanCon. Gotta go with my first love. No homo.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Thank you for that.
Hey, we support CanCon too, guys. He invited us on a live stream too.
He did, and we do support him. It just so happened that I had this planned. I wanted to be able to get on a show with my brother. And it's just fun. And we have been, he and I have been incredibly blessed. We have been raised by incredibly fantastic parents. We don't act the same. We don't think the same. We have very different views. But one thing we do is, number one, we love God. Our parents ingrained that in us. We raise our family. We raise our children to be good citizens and God-fearing citizens. And so politically, we might disagree on some things. But I thought it was important to have someone that I love and I respect on the show. And even though we don't agree on everything politically, at the same time, on some very, very core principles, we do agree on. And I think you guys are getting a chance to see that. I respect him. Yes, he is a real lawyer. Hey, Q, is Christian your real brother? Yes, he is my real brother.
Because he's so good looking, it just doesn't seem like.
He is. There's enough age difference between him and I that when my parents brought him home, I held him, I checked him out myself. So yes, they didn't pull any funny business. He is my real brother. We just
and all three of us, I think, just by the nature of this conversation, proves that we're anti-echo chamber.
Yeah,
it's just there's no, it's fun to have other people on where we can find agreement and tastefully debate stuff. I think is great.
Yeah,
it's very, very American right here.
Well, I mean, I think that's what we're missing, man. We're missing that in our society, that everything digresses to the level of name calling, and nobody gets any better as a result of that.
Yeah.
So
and I don't like it when our side does that either, Christian. If they dehumanize you or just start calling you names and stuff, I just don't think we agree.
What I hate is diminishing one side or another to a few talking points. Well, liberals just believe that. Oh, Republicans, you guys just believe that.
Yeah.
Because I look at myself, and there are a lot of ideas that I hold that are liberal. I'll be the first person to say that. But the reason I want to call myself, I'm a Democrat or I'm a liberal, because there are plenty of things that the liberal side would look at me like, that's what Republicans believe. You don't believe that. Like the idea of small government. I love the idea of a small government.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the government needs to be more involved in some areas than others, which has me trending back towards this side. But I do think that the government should err. It's things like that. But yeah, like you said, I think it's important that we're able to realize that every individual is so nuanced. And so when you start to listen to somebody, even though you may disagree, if you're able to actually listen to their issues and have a conversation, even if you walk away disagreeing, you at least walk away knowing that there's more than two sides of this coin. And I think that is what, if we want to talk about the media has done a horrible job with that, because, a multifaceted, nuanced argument doesn't say. It's got to be red versus blue, white versus black, because you need those views. And I think channels like this, that people are able to come on and have sometimes intelligent until I start talking, conversations about these things. I think this is a great idea, great platform, and I appreciate you started this.
It's a good time, man. So Doug, do you believe in smaller government, or are you more of a big government guy?
I'm small government, but I'd probably go on Christian side with certain things I'm okay with the government expanding on.
So for a guy who is small government, why would you support an overreaching DEA?
I mean, well, I'll give you an example of one expansion. I mean, I want the government to come in and break up YouTube.
I want to talk about specifically, how can you be small government and want the government to regulate plants?
I think the government should be behind something that should promote the good. This is where I part ways with libertarians and many conservatives.
Hold on. You're smoking the wrong strain if you don't think that's good, brother. If you don't think promoting good.
Yeah. I'm not a.
I got some recommendations for you. They can really promote that good.
My problem with the government getting involved with being for plants taken for the purpose of disconnecting you from reality. It's like being pro alcohol or which I drink a lot too, but I mean, being pro mushroom. I just don't want a government going, yeah, take mushroom. Yeah, take meth, all the meth you want, whatever you want to do to your body. I'm just going, no meth, no mushroom, no pot. I do have some.
What do you drink though?
Whiskey. I do have 250 milligram CBD extract that has none of the what's it called?
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
The good stuff. It doesn't have any of the good stuff in it, but I'm coming around. I might make a hemp rope and be I may not want the government to make a hemp rope illegal.
Oh man, so we have a friend, Christian. You'll get a chance to meet him. CanCon. He is literally the cannabis conservative, and he is a strong proponent of legalization and decriminalization of marijuana. And
is he from Minnesota?
No, he lives in
he's from Jamaica.
No, he actually man, even more interesting. He lives in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
run for a state house.
So Doug and I have had conversations. He's definitely strongly anti marijuana, and I, as far as I'm concerned, I am anti-government sticking its nose places where it doesn't belong. If God's looked at it and created it and said it is very good or it is good, who is the government to then say it is wrong?
Yeah,
I never have understood, Doug. What is your take on that? Do you believe that God was wrong when he said it is good?
Well, he said it was good, but he didn't mean I could put uranium in my arms. It's natural too. I mean, or opium. I mean, opium is natural. Can we give opium to children?
Opium is good. People abuse opium, but opium's still good. It serves purposes.
I mean, I think pot serves a purpose for medicinal purposes. That I have a lot different problem because it's just another pain.
So what is wrong with marijuana? I've never understood this.
Yeah. It's not, I don't want to make it sound like it's the end all be all. If I could get a smaller government and absolutely make pot legal even for babies, yeah, I'd do it. So I'm just saying it's not a hill I'll die on, but it's just, there's a huge cultural trend toward drugs that if you read, I'm just saying, when I read books about dystopian futures by Huxley, having the people drugged up and perpetually is part of the plan. And I think it's part of the big plan, if you know what I mean, is to get you jacked up and off of reality and medicating all of your suffering, all of your pain, and just blotting
we're already doing that. Big Pharma is already doing that. I mean, look at all the people who are.
I mean, I feel like
I believe a cell phone can be a drug. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people addicted to it. I mean, technology in general. Pam Jackson, real quick, because I got one more question, and I know we got to run, but Pam Jackson, $5 super chat. Why is your brother a Democrat? Why not an independent?
Didn't I just say I wasn't a Democrat?
Yeah, he is definitely not a Democrat. He is.
So you're not pro-choice?
Isn't everybody pro-choice?
Are you pro-abortion?
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you're not a Democrat. You can't be. It's their state bird.
I mean, it's. I'll just leave it with that. I'll leave it with that.
Yeah, I know. I don't need you to break it down any further. I'm just going, you know, if you're not there, because I have a litmus test. I can go down 5 points, and that's one of them.
All right.
Yeah.
They're
No, and
it
I'm
makes you
not.
a
I'm not.
Democrat heretic.
I'm not sitting here. I'm not a spokesperson for marijuana. That is not the purpose of the conversation. The purpose of the conversation is that I feel that the government has a whole lot bigger fish to fry than trying to decide who should be putting what in their body as an adult. So,
and at the end of the day, I know we gotta go, but at the end of the day, it's like it's not like this crime is being prosecuted equitably either. You know what I'm saying? You've got your Hunter Bidens that can have will never get convicted of a drug crime, but you know that they have their drugs. And then you've got your corner boys that every other day they're getting picked up because they got a half ounce in their pocket.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And there it is. So I agree with that 100%. So, but I'm about to lose probably about 500 subs, Doug.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't create conflict. This is marketing.
I'm not trying to, but I have to. I told you guys. I told you. I'm always going to call a spade a spade. Biden did something that I agree with. Biden not only did something I agree with, he did something that I support.
Goodbye. I got to go. I was cheering him on when he was the first president to recognize the Armenian genocide. I championed. That's the only thing I could find that I agreed with him on. So
Biden is. So you guys saw what he did with the patenting on the vaccine patents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he said he's releasing them to the public.
Correct. And he is not allowing them to patent those vaccines. I believe wholeheartedly in that. Because who funded that research?
We did.
Huh?
We did, but we also, part of the contract was under Trump was that they would be able to hold the patents. So my understanding is that he reversed a previous agreement.
And you know what? And going back
which I don't care what the agreement is. I'm only saying that's my
and that's fine. I disagreed with President Trump on that particular in that. I feel that first off, number one, if a company is relieved from all possible liability, okay, I'm trying to be careful what I say because I don't want to get the axe. But if a company is released from all future liability if something goes wrong with their product, right? And then that research and development is funded by the American taxpayer, then why then should they be allowed to patent that particular product and sell it back to us when we funded the research and development? Yeah. What say you on that, Christian?
I mean, I guess I don't even go about it that way. I do see where you're coming from, but my thing is why would you want to let a few rich people prevent entire countries from getting access to this vaccine? I understand the argument they go back on is innovation. This is going to stifle innovation. Well, if the only thing that causes you to innovate is the possibility to get millions of dollars, I don't want you innovating anything. I guess I'm. Oh, maybe not.
I was trying to end on a good note. I was trying to end on a positive note where we could all say "Kumbaya." We could hold hands. We could say a little prayer and go on our way. And then you have to bring up that you had to bring that socialist Marxist bullcrap to the table.
That's not socialism.
That is socialist. That is
Christian
socialist.
has announced that he's waiving his retainer for life because he's not about the money.
can I just ask one question?
Who ever heard of a lawyer fighting against profits?
You're okay with, we'll say, if one person has the cure for this communicable disease that's ravaged the entire world, one person has it, but he's like, no, I'm only giving this to people that give me $500. It doesn't matter that I've got 500 million in the bank. I want each one of you to give me $500. And oh, by the way, once you get this, you can't share with anybody else. Otherwise, I'm going to sue the pants off of you. And I mean, you're okay with that?
I'm okay with destroying Big Pharma in the way that I'm okay with destroying Facebook and cheating to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm not going to lose any sleep if they tear Big Pharma apart. And by the way, all the companies are, the amount of money they made on the vaccine is just a rounding error to their bottom line. It didn't make or break any of them, so they could easily cough that one up, and it's not going to hurt them enough for my liking.
Yeah, no, I everything I said as far as that goes is tongue in cheek. Real quick, Kyle Cowden, 1999. If you've ever been numbed at the dentist, you've had cocaine.
Yes.
Use actual cocaine suspensions for nosebleeds. Marijuana has shown great promise in a lot of areas. God made all things with a purpose. Moderation is key. Kyle Cowden, amen and amen.
Yeah, but that's not like most of my friends that are like, burn a stinky bowl, man. I'm going, all right. They sneak it in the door with, we're here for medicine and for cancer research. And I'm just like, okay.
Oh, man.
Giant blood.
Why did God create mosquitoes? Man, I don't know. That's something I'm gonna have to ask him, I suppose. I could not tell you that. I couldn't tell you that.
They feed every bird in the world for starters. You killed off the mosquito population, you'd destroy everything down the chain.
But God could have created something that didn't feed off of me, though, in order to feed the mosquitoes, right? Because I'm telling you, man, if no joke, if 10 of us are sitting there, I might be the only one getting eaten up by mosquitoes.
Yeah, I'm the magnet. I'm the magnet in our family too.
Oh man, like I will be sitting at the campfire, and I will be the only one getting eaten alive. And the worst part about it is, I'm the only one that's allergic to them. So I get really sick when I get. Somebody says roaches. All right, look, and I'm going to tell you right now, I would rather be in a pit full of snakes than see roaches. I will never forget the day I saw a roach fly. It did things to me, man. It did things to me. Like, I will have nightmares over roaches, man. So I when I first started in the business, right? So I was visiting with a client when I was sitting there going over some Medicare information with them. We're sitting there talking. And in the very beginning, Doug, I have ADHD anyway, so it's hard for me to truly focus on one person at a time, typically, right? So we're sitting there having a conversation, and I can see things around me, right? And I don't know if it's just ants or what it is, and I'm down in Texas. And so then I feel something on my neck. And then I, swat, and I feel it's like a fly or a bug or something like that in between my fingers. And, I just kind of, throw it off or whatever, right? And then I look at the table. Now, the lady's like, well, hey, I got to make banana bread for my grandkids for school tomorrow, so you can talk to me about this Medicare policy, she said, but I gotta keep doing what I'm doing. Okay, no problem. I'm just talking, going through all this, and she's sitting there with her batter and mixing bowl, just mixing it up. And this roach crawls across the table. Now, typically, like, that's a bad roach that comes out in broad daylight, right? Like,
no fear.
Has no fear
respect
whatsoever. I was the visitor, right? And so, I kid you not, if I'm lying, I'm dying, Doug. She takes the spatula out of the the batter, smacks the roach, and puts it right back in the batter. Then this woman has the nerve to say, you can't leave without taking a loaf of banana bread.
Watch me.
No, man. Hey, I took the loaf of banana bread. I got to the edge of their driveway. I took off all of my clothes down to my underwear and threw them in the trash with it. I'm like, I'm not taking roach eggs home. I'm just not doing it. So yeah, absolutely not. So so roaches, I don't do roaches. Kyle Cowden, $2.99. My wife says there'll be mosquitoes in hell. Oh man, dear Jesus, please forgive me for my sins.
The mosquitoes will lie down with the lamb.
They say,
like, they won't even be biting you all the time. Most times just be doing that.
Right? You finally get used to the heat and finally get used to the smell, and just out of sheer exhaustion, you're about to fall asleep, and then all of a sudden,
I hate that. I hate mosquitoes, especially Tennessee mosquitoes. They just burn for weeks.
Man, I tell you, you're going and come up here and get a taste of these Minnesota skeeters and see what you think about that. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Christian, thank you so much. A lot of people want to see you back, man. We got to have you come back. And Doug, obviously, got to have you come back. I think the next time I have Christian on, I think we're gonna have to have Topher on too. That'd be a fun discussion. They say Brandon Tatum. I might have to see if I can get Candace Owens on. Christian and Candace Owens. That would be fun. I wouldn't say anything.
Let anybody else talk.
You're a lawyer. You ought to be able to figure out a way to get your word. I'm a lawyer
because I'm able to talk because the judge says you have the floor and nobody else can say anything. I love it. I love it.
Order.
Something about having a bailiff there ready to cart you off and hold you in contempt that gets people to shut up. So, all right. Well, hey, you guys have a fantastic day. Be safe. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys, if you guys are not currently subscribed to Doug Tennapel Unleashed, make sure you give him a sub. Make sure you guys give him a sub. I will make sure that his description or his title is in, or not title, his address is in the description.
We're about to jump over 50,000. So thank you all.
Man, he is crawling back to the top. He will be surpassing Out of the Darkness here soon. But
we'll both cross 100 together.
You know what? I'm okay with that. Just so long as we both cross 100. So make sure you guys give him a sub. Make sure you subbed Out of the Darkness, guys. If you think you are subbed, go ahead and just make sure and click that button. Click the little bell. Make sure you guys give us a like before you go. Real quick, Joy to the World, $2 super sticker. Thank you so much for that, Joy to the World. Truly, truly appreciate that. And last but not least, Doug, give them your locals address or locals channel.
Sure. You look up Doug Tennapel on locals.
All right.
And you'll find me there. I've got a bunch of subs there. But to me, if I can get you here on YouTube or on locals, I'm happy. And we need Christian's got to start a channel. It's time.
Yeah. I tell you what, it would be interesting. I tried to get him to co-host with me. I mean, it would be like, you know what? I don't think there's ever been a better show than the old Hannity and Combs.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic show. When Sean Hannity and Alan Combs, right?
Yep.
When they would actually, I mean, and they were clearly friends, right?
Yeah.
And they would have conversations back and forth, and they didn't agree with each other on a lot of things, but they were civil, and it was great to be able to hear both sides. And I wish that we could have shows like that again, where people could have conversations, not necessarily be on the same side of the aisle, but actually have civil conversations. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Better than
So,
the echo chamber.
better than the echo chamber. So, and if you guys are looking for me on locals, it is at Out of the Darkness. So, for those of you mothers out there, have a fantastic Mother's Day. Thank you guys so much for sharing this time with us. And you guys make sure you guys call your mother, send her some flowers, and be nice to her. She put up with you for a long enough time. You can be nice to her at least one day. So, all right, guys. Thank. Huh? You said what?
Your butt, man.
She washed it for nothing else than that.
She ran you through her loins.
Yeah.
Oof. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a good night. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.